2012. Cyberpunk is officially announced, but at this time it doesn't even have an official name, going by Project Cyberpunk. 2013. The game that would become Cyberpunk is officially teased. Oh god, wow, that looks incredible. I wonder when we'll get to play it. 2016. The final DLC for The Witcher is released. Now CD Projekt Red's full attention is on Cyberpunk. Considering how good The Witcher was, this has the potential to be the greatest game of all time. 2018. We finally get to see an actual in-depth trailer and gameplay. 2019. Keanu Reeves. Absolutely breathtaking.
You're breathtaking.
And a release date of April 16th, 2020. My god, I can't wait. Well, all games need more time, and this means that we're going to be getting a more polished game at launch. Well, it's only delayed a month, and they promised they wouldn't delay it again. And look, the game just went gold. This is it. There's no way they can delay it again. 3, 2. The day is finally here. December 10th. I could finally get my hands on Cyberpunk and experience all this game has to offer. I called off work. I called off my family. I called off my vasectomy. Also, there is nothing standing in the way of me and Cyberpunk.
That's a really bad sign.
So a day later, the patch is finally downloaded, and we finally get to experience Night City and all of its bugs. And there's a lot of them. Graphical issues, trapped in the pause menu, music that never stops playing, stupid looking shadows, broken quests, sharp burgers, fantastic AI, car can't move, the Clone Wars, zombies rising from the dead, very athletic vehicle, an exorcism, grass ascending, headless V, and a million crashes, just to name a few. And while PC players may have gotten it bad, console players got it the worst, with the game being straight up unplayable at times. Gamers were miffed, and they were looking for answers. 4 days after release, CD Projekt Red offers this letter as an apology to disappointed gamers.
Dear gamers, we apologize for not showing you the state of the game on PS4 and Xbox One. We will be patching the game over time. We ask that you be patient and give us a chance to improve our game. But if you are not satisfied and would like a refund, you can opt in for one.
A pretty decent apology letter if you ask me. And very professional of them to offer refunds. The problem was the refund process could get a bit confusing, especially on console. So while some were getting refunds after a full 10 hours of playtime, others were getting nothing. CD Projekt Red said to email them if there were any issues, but it would take a while for responses. Eventually, Sony saw the train wreck and took matters into their own hands, straight up removing the game from their store and offering everyone a refund. And on Xbox, they plastered a warning explaining that the game may run like shit on Xbox One. But for many, it wasn't enough, and rightfully so. The fact that the console versions of Cyberpunk were never shown to the public up until release proves CD Projekt Red knew how broken the game was, but pushed it out to release anyways. And gamers were not going to let them slip their way out of this via an apology. Metacritic reviews were bombed with hate. Steam as well. The company's reputation fell apart. An extreme reaction, but a deserving one. And while not everyone completely hates Cyberpunk, almost everyone agrees that it was not what they had been promised and was ultimately a disappointment. Many people felt betrayed by CD Projekt Red. They felt they had been lied to. Many were confused by how a game that had been in development for over 8 years could come out this unfinished. Many want to know what happened. Well, let's see the explanation that CD Projekt Red gave. A short while after release, it was revealed that development of Cyberpunk mostly focused on the PC version, and treated the console version as an afterthought. Not the greatest idea if you plan on selling this game on console. But CD Projekt Red claims that they thoroughly tested the console versions, and that most of the bugs at launch were not discovered during the testing process. They believed majority of the problems discovered would be fixed in the day one patch. That was quickly debunked. Because many of the devs that worked on the game say that most of the common issues that players ran into on day one were discovered ahead of time. And CD Projekt Red knows this, given the fact that they made review copies PC only, and only gave away console review copies on December 8th, 2 days before launch. Well, that's when some reviewers got their game. Many, like Game Informer, got their review copies after launch. So what the fuck is the point of a review copy when audiences are getting the game first? And even when the reviewers got their hands on the game, CD Projekt Red made sure that word wouldn't get out about how buggy the game was by adding extreme restrictions, such as not allowing any organic footage of the game to be shared at all.
Nice.
Let's rewind a bit to something I said earlier, that CD Projekt Red focused on the PC version, and that's why the console version of the game is so buggy. Okay, that makes sense. But what that doesn't explain is why the PC version is also so buggy. If they were so focused on the PC port of the game, then the PC port should have had no bugs. But the PC port has more bugs than Australia. So what really happened? Well, apparently the game didn't actually enter full production until 2016, 4 years after it was announced, meaning that what many thought was 4 years of hard work was actually 4 years of procrastination and then another 4 years of scrambling to finish what they started. And apparently those first 4 years from 2012 to 2016 were a complete waste of time. Because in 2016 the game had a major overhaul, changing things like camera perspective, which was apparently going to be third person, gameplay, and major story elements. Many lead devs were pissed that what they had been working on for the past 4 years was thrown away, so a lot of them left the company. Another example of the devs wasting their time was the E3 2018 demo. This fantastic showcase, which is what sold many people on the game and got them hyped up for it, was entirely fake.
I think it's a disgrace that information that was false and fake and never happened got released to the public.
Apparently, CD Projekt Red didn't even have the gameplay systems coded at this time, in 2018, 2 years before launch. Many devs say this E3 demo took months to make and felt like it was a waste of time that could have been spent making, you know, the game. So let's get this straight. 2 years before launch, major elements of the game such as fucking gameplay hadn't even been coded yet. So this led to what every developer dreads. Crunch. Although at the time CD Projekt Red was saying that the crunch wasn't mandatory, many devs still say that they were pressured to work overtime. And then in 2020, it went from being pressured to straight up being forced. But the game's development time didn't go any faster, even with this crunch. And when it was announced that the game would release on April 16, 2020, yep, that sounds about right, many devs panicked because they knew that there would be no way they could meet that deadline. One developer even joked that they thought the game wouldn't be ready until 2022. And based off how the game runs, yeah, that doesn't seem too far off. Higher-ups began scaling down the size of the game and hiring more developers, which helped, but with around 500 people working on the game, they were still understaffed. Games like Red Dead 2, for example, were made by thousands of developers, not just 500. Let's fast forward a bit to near the end of 2019. The release date of April 16, 2020 is fast approaching, and it is looking like the game is not going to be ready for the deadline. But the higher-ups refused to delay it, saying that it wasn't an option. The plan was to release the game in April on PC, Xbox One, and PS4, and then when the new consoles came out, they would re-release it on those systems. Soon after, though, engineers shared concern that the game was too advanced for the old consoles and wouldn't be able to run on them. But the higher-ups dismissed these concerns and pressed on with their plan. They made The Witcher 3 after all, so they are the messiah of gaming. But by the end of 2019, they came to their senses and delayed the game to September, then again to November, and then one more time to December 10th. In the final weeks before launch, developers admit that they knew the game was in rough shape and scrambled to fix what they could before launch, but it wasn't enough time. The game was a mess, players were pissed, apologies were written, and now CD Projekt Red promises to redeem themselves via updates. Let's talk about those. At the time of recording, this game has gotten 6 updates, with the 7th on the way. The first one came out a day after release. Hotfix 1.04 came out on December 11th, 2020, fixing things like quests that would break after you would leave the quest area, conversations with NPCs not starting. Also, the game crashes less. 8 days later, on December 19th, the second update released, Hotfix 1.05, fixing bugs like Jackie literally vanishing in some missions, characters ghosting you, NPCs not being able to figure out how to make it to a waypoint, asserting dominance, getting stuck in third person and seeing a terrifying headless V. Honestly, I kind of wish they didn't fix some of these bugs. And the game crashes less. 4 days later, on December 23rd, another update came out, Hotfix 1.06, and the patch notes aren't the length of Mein Kampf this time. Honestly, there wasn't any funny glitches they fixed in this one, so I don't want to talk about it for too long. The game crashes less now, though. On January 13th, CD Projekt Red released a statement showing their commitment to quality. It's too bad that commitment wasn't there a month earlier. On January 22nd, the first official patch was released, patch 1.1, and my god, that's a lot of bug fixes. Things like characters not calling you to continue a mission, characters teleporting underground, Jackie disappearing during some missions even though they said that they fixed that 2 updates earlier, getting trapped in cars after finishing a race, all have been fixed. Nothing about crashes this time. 2 more hotfixes came out after patch 1.1. Hotfix 1.11 came out on January 28th, but it barely did anything, so who gives a shit. And Hotfix 1.12 came out on February 5th and also did barely anything. And that's all the updates that have come out for this game so far, with another patch on the way. Now the question is, With all those bug fixes, is the game any better? Well, I recently played it and
That was an improvement, but it's not hard to improve on garbage.
the game is still a mess, unfortunately. I played on PS5 and while there are less bugs, there is still an insane amount. I ran into 6 crashes during my playthrough and countless glitches. A lot of them were funny, but some were really annoying. Hopefully CD Projekt Red keeps their word and clears out the remaining bugs. Maybe gamers will forgive them after all these bugs are gone. But you know who won't forgive them? The US government. Shortly after launch, Rosen Law Firm filed a class action lawsuit against CD Projekt Red over the broken state of Cyberpunk. Then shortly after that, the Shaw firm also filed a class action lawsuit. Their main argument is how the messy state of the game on last-gen consoles was never disclosed, leading to CD Projekt Red stocks plummeting and investors losing a lot of money. These investors are now claiming that CD Projekt Red intentionally lied to them about the state of the game so that they'd invest. And they're not only in trouble here in the States, they're also having legal issues in their hometown of Poland. They're currently being investigated by Poland's Office of Competition and Consumer Protection over the state of the game at launch, although there hasn't really been a lot of updates for this case. But if there is enough evidence brought up against CD Projekt Red by the investigation, then they'll most likely have to deal with a third lawsuit, this time in Poland. All these legal issues just goes to show to release a game when it's ready. Now I spent a lot of time on bugs in this video, and that's because that's most people's issue with this game, and that's 100% my biggest issue with this game. In my opinion, when the game works, it's great, but a lot of the time, it doesn't work. But some fans aren't only angry at the terrible state of the game, they also have a problem with the game itself, complaining about problems like how lifeless the city is due to boring civilian AI that never do anything interesting, unlike in GTA for example. Even in cars, when you're blocking them, they just patiently wait for you to move out of the way. No horn honking or anything. Very similar to the real world. There have also been complaints about skill trees and how upgrades like stealth are completely pointless, when majority of the level design is dedicated to gunfights compared to sneaking around. Also, the AI sometimes literally spots you through walls, so what's the fucking point of stealth? Looting has also been criticized, and I honestly agree with this one. You get so many good weapons so often that you literally never get attached to a gun. You'll find a good gun in a mission, find an even better one in the next mission, find an even better one in the next mission, and then continue the process. The game never gives you a chance to get attached to a gun and spec it the fuck out, because you know you're going to be replacing it one mission later. Also, what's the point of all these guns when they're literally just reskins that improve damage? The length of the game has also been criticized for being way too short, especially for an RPG. I beat the game in around 30 hours, which compared to every other RPG I've ever played is very short. But I did really enjoy the story for those 30 hours, that's a positive. YouTuber Chris Davis made a great video going very in depth over these issues that I recommend checking out if you're interested. Okay, so I've been complaining for a while now. Let me just end this off by saying that I don't absolutely hate this game like some other people. Like I mentioned before, when it's working, it's a great game. Sure, it's got some gameplay issues, but it's still a lot of fun. It's just a damn shame that it's surrounded by so much controversy. Maybe CD Projekt Red will keep their promises and fix the game, or maybe they'll abandon it and leave it to rot like Anthem. I personally think CD Projekt Red can do it. Many companies have released games in similar terrible states and improved it over time. Everyone hated Destiny 2 when it first came out. Now a lot of people love it. Fallout 76 is improving. Assassin's Creed Unity released in a similar terrible state to Cyberpunk, and now the game's actually playable. If a company like Ubisoft can do it, I have faith that CD Projekt Red can do it as well. But until then, until the patches are released, until all the bugs are squashed, we return to this broken mess of a game, trying to make it through Night City without losing our save data to another crash. Man, I thought hotfix 1.06 fixed this.